Beloved chosen ones, have you ever wondered why life has always felt just a little heavier for you? Why your struggles came early? Why the peace others seem to enjoy never quite reached you? From the very beginning, it felt like you were in a fight no one else could see. As a child, you felt different, sensitive, disconnected, like you were carrying a burden that wasn't yours. You didn't have the words, but you had the knowing. You were marked, not marked for failure, not marked for destruction, but marked by the hand of God, marked for greatness, for impact, for war in the unseen. But here, this purpose doesn't come gift wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in adversity, in hardship, in fire. And chosen ones, you were born into the fire because before you ever knew your own name, darkness already knew your destiny. The enemy saw your potential and tried to smother it early. That childhood trauma, that loneliness, that feeling like no one ever really saw you, it wasn't punishment. It was prophecy. You don't need to feel ashamed of the weight you've carried. You need to understand it. That weight is evidence. That pain is proof. The fact that you've survived what others never even faced is not an accident. It's a sign. Chosen ones are born with spiritual rank. You were never average, and that made you a target. Demons don't waste energy on those who pose no threat. They come for the ones with spiritual authority, the ones who carry power, the ones who are called to disrupt the kingdom of darkness. Have you ever walked into a room and felt eyes on you, not with admiration, but tension? Like your very presence made others uncomfortable? That's not in your head. That's spiritual frequency. That's your light agitating hidden shadows. You weren't just born different. You were born divine. You carry something eternal, and eternity makes time-based systems uncomfortable. That's why people project it onto you. That's why relationships broke without reason. That's why your journey has felt lonely. Because you're not from here, you're sent here. And every chosen one must walk through rejection before they walk in power. But here's the part. The enemy didn't see coming. He thought the pressure would break you, but it built you. He thought the fire would burn you, but it refined you. He thought he was silencing you, but he was awakening you. So before we go any further, I need you to grab hold of this. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are chosen. And the weight you've carried since birth? That's the signature of the divine. Let's begin. Chosen ones. Have you ever wondered why the resistance started before you even made your first move? Why the warfare didn't wait? It began while you were still innocent, still learning how to walk, talk, trust. That's because your calling was never ordinary. And what carries divine weight cannot pass through life unchallenged. You were born for spiritual elevation, and anything destined to rise must first be shaken. The shaking wasn't punishment, it was placement. It was alignment. You weren't born for comfort. You were born for dominion. From a young age, betrayal touched your life. Confusion clouded your path. You were blamed for things you didn't do, misunderstood in moments when you needed understanding the most. And while others played, you learned how to survive. You learned how to endure silence. You learned how to hear God in isolation. But that resilience, that endurance, it wasn't just survival, it was spiritual conditioning. You were in training for authority. You were being built in secret for power in public. Chosen ones are not marked by smooth roads, but by steep climbs. You were never designed for normal. You are a prototype, a spiritual blueprint of what happens when God places fire in human form. Because what lives inside you, it's disruptive, it's divine, it doesn't blend in. It exposes everything false, and the enemy saw that. He saw it before you did. That's why he sent the attacks early. He tried to traumatize you before you discovered your voice. He tried to crush you before you discovered your identity. But what he didn't know is that heaven was already guarding your destiny. Even when you didn't feel it, Angels were encamped around you. Because your destiny wasn't just to survive you. We're born to transform. You've carried pain that didn't belong to you. You've had to heal from wounds you never caused. And you've asked, why me? More times than you can count. Here's why. You are not on man's timeline. You are on kingdom time. You weren't sent here for convenience. You were sent for impact. And impact requires friction, pressure, fire. Remember Jeremiah 1-5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. That's not metaphor. That's your spiritual birth certificate, even in moments when you silenced your own light to make others comfortable. Heaven never forgot what it placed inside of you. Even when you tried to play small just to survive, God whispered your name to angels and said, "That one is mine." Chosen ones, your suffering wasn't an accident, it was assignment. The enemy tried to label you broken, but God called you chosen. Every wound you carry has become wisdom. Every scar now speaks of your survival. The nights you cried yourself to sleep weren't wasted. They were watering something sacred. The moments you were rejected weren't signs of failure. They were redirections. They moved you away from what could not carry the weight of your calling. And now, something is shifting. You're not the same. You're not fragile. You're forged. You've been to hell and came back with vision. You've seen darkness, and now you carry light. And that light, it radiates. It disrupts. It commands. You didn't get here by accident. You didn't survive. All that to stay silent. You were preserved because your voice carries authority now. Your presence shifts rooms now. Your spirit walks with fire now. So when people ask you, why did your path look so different? You'll answer with truth, not tears. I was marked by the Spirit, and that mark, it's permanent, it's divine, it's unstoppable. Chosen ones. Let's talk about the battles no one saw, not the ones with visible enemies or loud conflicts. I'm talking about the silent wars, the internal storms, the moments where you smiled publicly while dying privately, the days you showed up, served, loved, supported when your own soul felt hollow. This is where the true warfare lived. Not outside, inside, because your biggest enemy was never a person. It was the voice that told you to quit, the weight that whispered, "You're not enough," the doubt that echoed louder than truth in your darkest nights. These weren't just passing thoughts. They were spiritual attacks. Strategic assaults meant to dismantle your divine identity from the inside out. Because if the enemy can't reach your body, he targets your mind. He tries to bend your will, to make you question the very core of who you are. But you chosen one, you fought back in silence. You stood when no one clapped. You prayed when no one listened. You kept moving, not because you felt strong, but because you refused to stay down. And that kind of resilience, it doesn't make headlines. It doesn't get awards. But in the spirit realm, it moves mountains. It terrifies demons. It rewrites atmospheres. You see, most people only survive when they're seen. But you survived when you were invisible. You grew while being overlooked. You evolved when no one was checking for you. And that kind of growth, it's sacred. It's dangerous to darkness. Because behind your eyes is a soul that has been through fire. Behind your strength is a past littered with battles. And behind your calm demeanor is a history full of chaos that you tamed through faith and fortitude. World doesn't know the nights you cried with no answers. The days you begged God for direction. The mornings you got up, dressed up, and showed up while your heart felt broken into pieces. That's the part they don't see. But heaven saw it all. God counted every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose hope over despair. And none of it was wasted. Every hidden battle birthed strength. Every silent cry was a seed planted in spiritual soil. And now that soil is bearing fruit, wisdom, discernment, peace that doesn't need validation. That's why your energy feels different. You're not pretending. You're purified, refined, grounded in something deeper than applause. Rooted in truth that pain couldn't erase. Chosen ones. The reason your presence shifts rooms is because you've been to war and won. You carry an authority forged in silence. Your wounds didn't break you. They became wisdom. Your battles didn't stop you. They became power, God, and though the world may never understand your journey, the spirit realm does. Heaven stands at attention when you walk into purpose, because they remember what you've overcome. They witnessed your unseen victories, so the next time someone wonders why you move the way you do, why you speak with conviction, why you carry peace like a sword, tell them this: I survived what no one saw. I won wars in silence. I built strength in solitude. You are a living testament that survival doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's still. Sometimes it's just breathing through one more day and doing it again. But make no mistake, every breath was a battle. And every battle was a brick. And every brick became a throne, because the chosen ones don't just survive, they reign from within. Asterisk, chosen ones. Let's talk about the power you now carry. It's not flashy. It's not boastful. But it is absolute. You've reached a point in your journey where your energy announces you before you speak, where your presence causes a room to shift without needing to raise your voice. That's not confidence, it's spiritual authority. And authority can't be imitated, it can't be faked. It's not borrowed or gifted casually. It is earned, forged, consecrated. Authority comes from alignment. It comes from walking through storms and staying anchored. It comes from choosing truth when lies were easier. It comes from remaining faithful when nothing made sense. And now that authority lives in you, you're no longer just a person moving through life. You are a spiritual force, an atmosphere changer, a walking contradiction to darkness. Have you noticed it? Rooms go quiet when you walk in. People who once spoke with confidence suddenly grow cautious. Conversations shift. Hidden motives get exposed. You feel it. The tension, the undercurrent. It's not paranoia, it's discernment. It's your spirit identifying what doesn't align with your frequency. Because your frequency isn't common, it's divine. You've been through too much to operate in fear. You've lost too much to waste time pretending. And because of that, your presence carries weight. Not because you try, but because you are aligned. Remember Acts 19:15. Jesus I know, and Paul I know. But who are you? That wasn't about status. It was about spiritual rank. The demons recognized authority. And make no mistake, they recognize yours too. You didn't just pray for this power, you bled for it. You cried for it. You kept showing up when everything in you wanted to quit. And that endurance became your signature in the spirit realm. Now even darkness hesitates, even opposition steps aside. Because it senses what's inside you, unshakable alignment. You no longer ask for permission to shine. You walk into spaces, knowing your light isn't arrogant, it's assigned. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to illuminate. You don't adapt to rooms anymore. You command them. You don't seek validation, you carry confirmation. Every step you take is anchored in divine authority, and every word you speak shakes the spiritual realm. Have you noticed how some people cling to you while others disappear? That's spiritual gravity at work. Those aligned with truth will find peace in your presence. Those aligned with deception will feel exposed. It's not your job to fix it. It's your calling to stand in it. Because spiritual authority demands accountability, not just from you, but from everything around you. When you walk into a room, you don't bring neutrality. You bring disruption, healing, conviction, revelation. You've become a mirror reflecting truth so clearly that anything fake shatters. And this is what the enemy feared all along. Not that you'd suffer, but that you'd survive. Not that you'd be broken, but that you'd rise. Not that you'd lose, but that you'd learn. Because now you're no longer reactive, you're directive. You don't just resist darkness, you reverse it. You've become a living demonstration of divine authority in motion. So stand firm. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't silence your truth to preserve peace. You weren't sent to maintain the atmosphere, you were sent to shift it. When you speak, chains break. When you move, demons retreat. When you pray, realms align. Because you no longer walk as someone trying to earn authority, you embody it. The reason people don't always understand you is because they've never seen this before. You're a spiritual anomaly. A rare manifestation of what happens when someone surrenders fully to divine purpose. So let the whispers come. Let the misunderstandings happen. Let people exit. Your authority isn't for their approval, it's for their transformation. And those who are ready will feel it. And those who aren't will flee. But regardless of their response, walk in your truth. Carry your rank. Live like the realm knows your name. Because chosen ones, you don't just walk. You command. Chosen ones, now that you've recognized the weight of who you are, the question becomes, what will you do with it? This is the moment everything changes. Not because your circumstances suddenly shift, but because your vision does. Because true power isn't about what you hold, it's about how you use it. It's about stewardship, not possession. You've walked through too many fires to shrink now. You've outlived too many lies to stay silent. That older version of you, the one who second-guessed their worth, who walked in fear, who watered down truth to fit in, that version didn't survive the storm. It was burned away. What remains now is something holy, something heavy, something heaven-backed. You're not just walking in survival anymore, you're walking in strategy, in spiritual dominion, in divine clarity. And this moment, this is your spiritual activation. This is heaven tapping you on the shoulder saying, you are ready. Ready not just to live but to lead. Not just to stand but to build. Not just to carry light, but to be light. The time of hiding is over. The era of downplaying your power is done. The ones assigned to your voice are waiting, and the spiritual realm is watching, because when chosen ones rise, darkness has to recalibrate. This isn't about pride. It's about purpose. And purpose carries weight. You were chosen not just to escape bondage, but to destroy it. Not just to overcome strongholds, but to dismantle them for generations. Your lineage needed your obedience. Your community needs your courage. The earth is groaning for sons and daughters to arise, and that includes you. You've already shifted atmospheres. You've already broken personal chains. But now you step into leadership, into legacy, into kingdom-building. Because when you rise, others rise with you. Your elevation becomes permission for someone else to believe in their own breakthrough. You've become a lighthouse guiding those still lost in the waves you survived. And yes, the weight of this call is real. It won't always feel glorious. There will be resistance. There will be loneliness. But chosen ones don't walk the easy path. They walk the anointed one. Don't be surprised when those closest to you don't understand the level God is elevating you to. Don't expect everyone to clap. Some will be confused. Some will feel exposed. Some will even resent your glow. But remember this. Your light isn't offensive, it's revealing. And not everyone is ready for revelation. Still, you shine. You weren't sent to conform. You were sent to confront lovingly, powerfully, unapologetically. And confrontation doesn't always mean conflict, it means clarity. You're bringing clarity to a world clouded by confusion. And yes, clarity causes shaking. But what is not rooted will fall. And what is aligned will stand. So rise anyway, lead anyway, speak anyway, because you were not chosen to remain hidden. You were preserved through pain so you could carry purpose. You were trained in silence so your voice could carry weight. And now, that weight must be used not for ego, but for impact. Let your presence preach. Let your truth break chains. Let your testimony ignite sleeping giants in others. The time for doubt is over. The time for fear is over. The time for delay is over. Now is the time for bold steps, for radical obedience, for uncompromising alignment, because what's coming is not just about you. It's about the movement your life initiates, the shift your surrender sparks. You're not just called, you're commissioned. You're not just chosen, you're trusted. You're not just here to survive. You're here to disrupt. Disrupt patterns. Disrupt pain cycles. Disrupt generational trauma. Disrupt spiritual apathy. This is your moment to step forward, not with arrogance, but with divine confidence. Not with noise, but with presence. Not with performance, but with power. The kind of power that doesn't boast but blesses. That doesn't control but cultivates. That doesn't manipulate but ministers. Chosen ones, walk into rooms like you belong there, because you do. Speak with authority, not volume. Move with strategy, not stress. Love without fear. Serve with joy. Stand like you've already won, because in the spirit you have. And when the enemy tries to remind you of who you used to be, just remind him who you are now. Tell him, I'm the one that made it. The one you couldn't destroy. The one you tried to silence, but God gave a microphone. The one who walks with heaven's army behind every step. The one who's no longer surviving, but reigning. You are the storm the enemy feared. You are the voice generations prayed for. You are the breaker of cycles, the carrier of legacy, the walking evidence of God's faithfulness. So don't just live. Lead, don't just talk. Transform, don't just be chosen. Be unstoppable, because what comes next is not survival, it's dominion, it's legacy, it's glory, and it starts now.